There is not a lot of things that I fear in this world, with the exception of peanuts, the IRS, and Frankenstein watches. And what I'm about to show you guys is probably one of the craziest things I've ever seen throughout my entire time in this industry. So without further ado, let's jump into how I actually almost got scammed out of $27,000. Now, when it comes to replica watches, I feel like everybody is under the same exact impression that these things are about $100. You could pick one up on Canal Street, head over to Chinatown, order them online, or better yet, everybody seems to know a guy that sells one-to-one super clones. However, the days of manufacturers making these wild, outlandish replicas are well behind us. They used to create ones with dial colors that never existed, reference numbers that were never even put into production. Now, in recent years, with watch demand increasing, the one-to-one capabilities of watch manufacturing, especially in the replica space, has increased dramatically. And this is where the problem lies within this industry. These replicas have gotten so good that you could take genuine watch parts, slap them onto a replica, create yourself a one-to-one Frankenstein watch, and ultimately scam the hell out of somebody. You could very well unknowingly purchase a replica watch with a bunch of genuine parts. Now, luckily for my clients, I know what the hell I'm looking at. I work on watches on a daily basis. I own all the tools to open these things up, fully inspect them, and determine authenticity. But most of these gray market dealers don't know their left from their right hand, and you could very well end up with something like this. Let's mix these up and see if you could tell which is which. But I mean, come on, just take a look at these things. I don't care who you are, if both of these watches are in your hand right in front of your face, you're not telling the difference unless you know about watches. And this scares the living shit out of me. So let's jump into this video, find out what's wrong with this watch, and why you should be scared as well. But first off, we'll get the backstory on how this watch ended up at Horology Exchange. Somebody had reached out to me via the sell portal on the website. They said, Peter, I have an AP26331ST for sale with a black dial. And of course, I said I'm a buyer. I personally own the watch for my personal collection. Just bought one last week, so why not buy another one? Now, the price he was asking for it was fantastic. It is coming as watch only, however, that's not uncommon, and that doesn't turn me away from buying a watch. But the one thing that threw me off was he was very adamant on being paid out before shipping this watch. Now, as you guys know, I obviously cannot do that. Well, now we know why he wanted to be paid out first. He just kept referring to, well, I don't know you, we've never done a deal, and I don't want to send my watch in first. That's perfectly understandable. I get the same thing all day long. However, for this exact reason, everything needs to come in first, be inspected before I could issue payment. And I pay out immediately, same day as the product arrives, plus I do too much business on a daily basis to not pay out on a watch. Trust who you're selling to. If you have anything for sale, reach right out. But we're 3 minutes into this video. If you paid close enough attention and you're not scared yet, well then you're really in for it. So one of the first things we're going to take a look at is our bracelets. On the left, we have my genuine 2019 26331ST, and on the right is obviously the replica. Now, it's very obvious when you're looking at them from overhead. Obviously, on the replica one, the AP logo is not as clean, crisp, and sharp as the genuine. Just take a look at the A, the triangle portion is very tight and sharp. And the AP logo on the replica is a lot smaller and just a lot less legible. But this is a very minute detail, especially something easily overlooked if you didn't have two of them in hand. Now, when we flip these buckles over, you could see just how close these actually are. Now, we're going to see some finishing differences and overall build construct differences. One of the easiest things to identify here is going to be fit and finish. I'm talking metal on metal tolerances. AP does everything with a purpose. Now, these inner buckle logos, they're pretty much one-to-one. They are dead set in the correct locations and they're almost perfect. However, the build quality of this buckle is not up to AP standards by any means. Buttons that pretty much open and close the clasp. Now, the AP genuine one, it feels perfect. It feels purposefully done. And of course, you guys can see all the cuts on these inner clasp blades. They fit together perfectly. Now, it's directly in the name. A replica watch is made to replicate something. However, they're never going to be exactly one-to-one. They're not utilizing the same machinery, and it's very obvious here. Now, proportionally, this buckle is perfect, but there's still going to be some tolerance gaps. Otherwise, the thicknesses, the overall build of this inner clasp is pretty much on point with genuine. Now, even if we flip them on the sides, you guys can see just how close they actually are. Now, if we take a closer look, you guys could see that the replica utilizes the same pin and screw system as the genuine bracelet. From a side profile view, everything seems to be the same exact thickness. I have zero complaints here. That is until you get a little bit closer and you could clearly see the genuine one up top is a fair bit thicker. Once again, there's always going to be tolerance issues. They're not working off the same AP schematics, and it's very obvious when you flip this buckle over. You could see clearly that there are cuts that are just not perfectly straight. They have a little bit of a jagged edge, and once again, the fit and finish is not on point. Now, Audemars Piguet's bracelets are some of the best looking and feeling bracelets in the world. And once again, I was actually thrown off here. Try and guess which one's real and which one's fake. In person, this is a lot easier to see rather than looking through a video. However, the replica and the genuine one are pretty much built in identical ways. We have minimal play within the bracelet, and once again, the replica one, it's pretty much the same exact tolerance. But where we see the blaring differences is going to be in the finishing. As you guys can see, we have thicker gaps on the replica version, but AP makes these bracelets perfect. Once again, they are not utilizing the same exact machinery, the same finishes, so our center links are going to have bigger gaps here and there. But overall, the cuts, they're perfect. Now, if we hold these things side by side, they're the same exact thickness. You could use fake links on a genuine bracelet, slap this onto a genuine royal oak case, and you could easily pass this thing off as completely genuine. Now, the devil is really in the details, and this is why every watch needs to be fully broken down and fully inspected. These are something that's such a small item, but it's so easily overlooked, as we could see some differences between the bars that secure the bracelet as well as the screws. So before I tell you guys which is which, I'm going to let you simmer for about a minute here, and you tell me pretty much which one's real and which one's fake. There's very subtle differences when looking at this with a naked eye, and especially when you don't have the genuine one right next to the replica. There's a few blaring items that are very easy to tell, but here's the scariest part. If we flip these cases side by side, we have identical case cuts on the lugs. That means a genuine bracelet will fit on here with zero issue. Now, if we look at the crown guards, the pushers, on the genuine one, they stick out slightly further. However, the crown guards, the chamfers, everything is perfectly cut. And this is scary as fuck. I'm not gonna lie, because this is almost a perfect imitation, at least when we're comparing sides of the cases here. Dimensionally, everything seems to be on point, and once again, if we flip these cases on their side, somehow royal oak stands up perfectly. But I mean, the symmetry from the bezel all the way down to the case back, just like the genuine one, it's perfect. The crowns, they are the exact same size. The AP logos, obviously you could tell the difference, but you could clearly see where this lacks. Now, the bottom side of the cases, the way that it's chamfered, are lug holes, and the overall chamfers on the lugs themselves, they're not nearly up to AP standards. However, you could always say a bad watchmaker refinished this, and it'll still pass as genuine. That is up until we get to the case back, and this is where we finally catch a break. Obviously, the devil is in the details. Now, looking at the royal oak insignias on these case backs, you could very clearly see which one's real and which one's fake. A very easy thing to tell is going to be the case back and bezel screws. A replica will utilize stainless steel that have been mirror polished, while the genuine one, as you can see here, look at the color hue difference, these are made out of solid white gold. To go that extra step further, someone could actually white gold plate all of the aftermarket screws, both for the case back as well as the bezel. But our fit and finish under here and machining, we have some jagged edges on the replica case, but overall it's close enough. And you could clearly see that here. Once again, the genuine pushers, they stick out a bit further. However, the case is cut perfectly. Our crowns are actually the same exact thread pitch, and they are the same exact size. This is why it is so scary, because even if we flip the case around to the other side, we have perfect symmetry between the two. Now, I'm sure every other watch dealer watching this, they'll say, oh, I could easily tell. I'm sorry, but you cannot. Unless you're dealing with Audemars Piguet on pretty much a daily basis, these things will not be as apparent to you unless you have a genuine one right next to you. Our dials are clearly finished in completely different fashions. The fake one is pretty much matted, while the genuine is a nice gloss black. All of our text, the rehaut polish, all the markers, the way the hands are finished, AP finishes everything absolutely flawlessly. But once again, this is a super cloned watch. You could always slap an original dial, original hands, and original date wheel in the watch. But what you can't do is fix all of these minute details. Now, which one is which? Let's take a guess. And if you heard me say it before, we have genuine with white gold and the replica in stainless steel. Now, to me, this is the best part of this video, and that's when we open up the case back, right? We can see our movements. They look pretty similar, but wait a minute. Yeah, your Audemars Piguet should not say Cartier. But Peter, why does it say Cartier in there? Why does it work? Well, Audemars Piguet uses a 2385, which is based off of the FP1185 movement. They are the same exact thing. Obviously, we're going to have some finishing differences both on the bridges, our balances here, and just overall quality and craftsmanship. AP obviously is going to finish it in a different way than Cartier. However, we have identical base movements. As you can see here, if I hit a freeze frame, you can see the AP is designated 2385, while the 1185 isn't. But they both share the same FP stamps. We're just going to have finishing differences. But the case backs, these are very easy to tell. I mean, come on. AP signs theirs, the replica does not. To summarize this video, these two watches are way too similar. Now, don't get it twisted, guys. This is not a super clone watch you could just order offline. I'm sure you can buy the parts elsewhere, but it's going to cost you money. Between the 1185 movement, the mid case, the bezel, the dials, the hands, whatever. It gets expensive, and it gets expensive very quick. But these are the details and the lengths that scammers go to. They don't have a problem shelling out $5,000 if they could potentially make a $22,000 profit, which is what I think this guy was trying to do here. He fed me a whole sob story about how he bought it from another watch dealer and this and that, whatever. I don't believe it for a second. What I think he was trying to do here was trying to scam me. Obviously, that's not going to slide, and realistically, I didn't even want to send this watch back. If you send in a replica watch, I'm charging you for my time, and you are paying for shipping. But another thing you guys got to take into consideration, and I say this pretty much every single video because it is so true. All of these watch dealers you see online, how many of them are you actually watching take apart watches, authenticate them, etc., etc.? None of them. That's because they say they do it. They send it out, but that shit costs money. And if you own a business, you know that you want to save every single penny you could because that helps your bottom line. All I'm going to say is I would rather sleep better at night knowing someone authenticated my watch. You'll never have a problem like this shopping with Horology Exchange. So if you're looking for any watches, reach right out. If you're looking to sell, head right over to the website, reach out to me, and let's see if we can get some deals done. Guys, this is a very, very scary watch here, and for good reason. Lastly, you don't ever want to end up in this position because a dealer could always say, well, I didn't sell it to you like that. Ask for the proof, trust who you buy from. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.